So, having seen Okonkwo's interior, and then moving into his exterior, and then moving out into this African culture, now Achebe is setting up where he's going to go into part two, broadening our provincial perspective here. One of the first instances of anybody in this town that we see asking questions about the values of Umuofia is Nowowi, the night that Ikemefuna is killed. So Nowowi, Okonkwo's son, when Okonkwo comes back, knows that Ikemefuna has died. And he begins to struggle. He struggles with this, and he struggles with this remembering one time that, as Achebe narrates, he heard twins who were crying after being put in pots and thrown in the forest. And he said when that happened, Nowowi felt this kind of disconnect in himself. He felt perhaps that the things that he had been told were good were not actually good. And he has that same experience now after the death of Ikemefuna, when he thinks, I know that everybody says in the village that this is supposed to happen, but Nowowi's wondering, is it? Is it actually? Is this good? Is this like what we should be doing? There's a brief scene in the chapter after which Okonkwo kills Ikemefuna, where Obierka, Okonkwo's best friend, comes in and talks about Ikemefuna's death. And he says, let me tell you one thing, my friend. If I were you, I would have stayed at home. What you have done will not please the earth. It is the kind of action for which the goddess wipes out whole families. And this, from Obierka, is perhaps a support now of Nowowi's skepticism and doubt, because Obierka is saying here, hey, like, there's some stuff about this that wasn't good, and it's definitely not good that you were involved in it. A little bit later in the book, we see then the first mention of white people in the story, and it's rumor, and there's not a clear sense of what's happening. You remember one of the villagers here says that the white men have no toes, but you're getting a sense that this thing that seems big enough, Umuofia, is a very small part of the world, which, as Okonkwo says, is large. And Okonkwo doesn't have any concept of how large the world actually is, as Achebe is going to explore more fully in part two of the novel. So here are some conclusions in part one of the book. We see this diverse, multifaceted culture, all these various modes of success, from farming to succeeding in war, to feats of strength like wrestling, to the family. We see a rich religious tradition that gives explanation for a lot of what's happening in the world. We see customs for marriages, customs for funerals, and a justice system here. We see this rich oral storytelling tradition in which we have a lot of fables and a lot of ideas that are explained in this kind of unified culture that tells stories about itself. But by the end of this section, as Okonkwo has climbed this ladder from rung to rung to rung, and has finally arrived at the place where at this funeral, after his gun accidentally explodes and he kills a boy, that he's exiled for 7 years, Achebe starts to introduce a healthy questioning about some of these things. Obierka, Okonkwo's friend, is tasked with burning everything that Okonkwo owns. And as he's going from place to place in Okonkwo's compound, Obierka, he thinks about twins that he had that had to be thrown away because they were twins. And he thinks about Okonkwo, and he says, why should a man suffer so grievously for an offense he had committed inadvertently? Obierka's wondering, is this actually fair? As I'm walking around burning all the things that my friend has worked so hard for, is it fair that he should have to experience this? And so Achebe is putting together some questions for us about this culture. He's asking, is it possible to question the values of a culture and still embrace that culture? For instance, Obierka, can he say, I don't know if this is fair, and still embrace it? Can you express doubts about a faith like Nowowi does about these twins and about the death of Ikemefuna and still maintain that faith? Can you live in tension with the things in your world and say, I don't agree with everything that's here, but I still value it even if I don't agree or understand? And it's in that vein, in that line of questioning, that Achebe is going to lead us into part two of the book.